So I've got two more slides that I want to leave you with today that I've called takeaways and recommendations. And I would say they sort of they fall under two broad categories of engagement and communication. The first slide is there are a lot of words on here, but what I've said at the top is really the point that I want to drive home, and that is that ports are not well understood, and their role in economic development and global commerce is underappreciated. And so it's incumbent on you as port managers to tell that story of why your facilities are critically important and how your ports are economic engines that drive economic activity, jobs, capital investment, tax revenues far beyond the home communities where your ports are located. And one of my observations has been, as I have been involved in state economic development associations, is that port activities and port leadership and port management are not always connected to the key partner stakeholders that are important partners in telling that story. And I would say that's true of local government associations, your city and county associations, as well as your economic development partners at the state level and at the local level as well. This often has to do with personalities. Some people are much more interested in engagement and communication outside of the port world, and others less so. But I do want to emphasize the importance of communicating your messages and the important role that your ports play to every audience you can find, because you're going to need partners at every level, and this has to be done on an ongoing and regular basis. If you do not tell your story, it's much more difficult for you when you go to your federal legislative delegation or your state legislative delegation, or even locally, to get funding for activities at the local level to be successful, because you have to communicate the important role that you play, both directly in job creation, but perhaps even more importantly for the customers that you serve, the important role that you play in their profitability and growth and expansion. You hear this a lot. Economic development is a team sport. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But in the case of this presentation, I want to emphasize the need to be engaged with every conceivable partner on an ongoing and regular basis, not just when the legislature convenes back in your capital city and your legislators are discussing appropriations for the ports, but on an ongoing basis, year in and year out, be engaged with your partners and enlist their help in telling your story. This is just a further kind of underscoring of that point, that you need to be engaged at every level of economic development and with every conceivable partner. As I said, I have been very actively involved as a past president of the North Carolina Economic Development Association, and during Eric's tenure, he distinguished himself and his leadership team in really trying to work with our state economic development association to tell the port story, and many of his staff were regularly working throughout our state, meeting with the economic development community and local governments, as well as in our state capital of Raleigh, to tell that story. That I can't overstate how important that is. And I think perhaps beyond just the numbers, we all tend to focus on the economic impact of the state ports. You've probably all seen these reports that in your state or in a particular state, the economic impact of the port is X. beyond those sort of raw data numbers, I think it's really, really important to talk about case studies of employers that are perhaps very distant from the port, that rely on the port for their operations. And I remember many years ago when BMW chose to locate their manufacturing facility in Greer, South Carolina, the critically important role that the Port of Charleston played in that recruitment effort. And one now can look at what has happened around that Greenville, Spartanburg, Greer area of South Carolina, and the huge number of first, second, third tier automotive suppliers that have come there because that BMW plant was initially located there, and the critically important role that the Port of Charleston played in the initial recruitment of that project. And today, the billions and billions of dollars of economic impact that have been generated from not only the mothership, the manufacturing facility at BMW has located there, but all of the suppliers that have located in South Carolina proximate to that facility. So telling those kinds of stories, talking about the jobs that have been created, the businesses that have grown as a result of export activity and the utilization of your ports is absolutely essential for you to tell that story. So I urge you, in conclusion, to be engaged, joined at the hip with every conceivable partner, stakeholder that you can at the federal, state, local level, and that includes local governments, economic development associations, your partners in the utilities and rail industries, and then to tell your story in a compelling way and throughout your service area so that your political leadership fully understands the important and critical roles that you play in economic development in your respective communities and our nation as a whole. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.